Today's class is about representation of women in popular media, and we'll be discussing one particular case study, that is some incidents from print advertisements. Now, before getting into that, I'll also talk about one or two thinkers who are not solely from media studies per se, but again, they deal with media in different ways, feminist scholars. One is, for example, Laura Mulvey. Laura Mulvey is a feminist film scholar, but in 1975, she published an essay in the journal called Screened. The title of the essay was Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema. However, she was writing about classical Hollywood cinema and its problems, its mainstream problems. As a mainstream cinema, what are the issues it had regarding women's roles, women's characterization, so on and so forth. She also talked about something called male gaze there. Now, that idea of male gaze is no more just something core to the film studies, but is also used by media studies people, feminist media scholars, and is used to understand different media phenomena. Many of them have borrowed Laura Mulvey's idea of male gaze when it came to publicity materials, advertisements, television shows, so on and so forth. According to her, that is Laura Mulvey, the normative, active/passive, heterosexual division of labor with the way we see at things, we look at things, controls the audiovisual narrative structure. Now, we will not get into Laura Mulvey's theory, but what we'll do here is try to understand what she means by male gaze. And this will help us, or this will actually give us an entry point to understand how to read images of women. I am showing here a structure that is male, female, and there are three different pointers against each of them, which kind of shows how these individual gender identities operates in terms of looking at a narrative cinema. For example, the male not only actually looking but also participating. For example, male viewer who's spectator, who's watching. At the same time, male protagonist who's also acting or being a part of the narrative. So, heterosexual division of labor controls the narrative structure. Here, she's talking about the characters and how the narrative continues. Male characters are mostly the active characters in a story. They are the origin of look. When we see the male characters on screen, they mostly looks at things. Women characters, on the other hand, are being looked at. Men are looking at them, other characters are looking at them, etc., etc. And most importantly, male characters are the controller of narrative. It is their struggle, their final goal, aim, that kind of leads the narrative, the story. Female, on the other hand, are mostly passive characters. As we said, men are the origin of look, that is, men looks at things. Women are the object of look. People look at them. And if men are the controller of the narrative, so the narrative follows the man's journey, female becomes an object of narrative or a spectacle of narrative, something to be looked at, something beautiful, something that comes and disrupts the narrative, but she is not the driver of the narrative. But again, we have to understand there are some films which will be female-dominated film or female-centric film, quote-unquote. But again, she's talking about mainstream cinema, that is Hollywood. She was talking about Hollywood then. And definitely, these were the common traits that she could find. Then what is gaze, as she says, and this is important for us, not only for cinema, but also for media. If we follow Laura Mulvey's essay, these are the points we'll find. What she means by a gaze. Gaze, according to her, is objectification of women seen as objects. We use this word objectification very often. What do we mean by that? Objectification is that when you look at something, or somebody rather, but you treat them like an object. What do we mean by object? An object is different from a living being because a living being has their own will. They have consciousness, they can think on their own, they can move, not move, decide on their own. An object is an inanimate thing. It doesn't have consciousness, it cannot think. It solely relies on the person who's seeing it or handling it, and the fate of its movement and everything relies on that. Objectification through gaze is something that when you look at somebody and that somebody doesn't have the power to do anything about it and gets reduced to an object. For example, looking through a keyhole. where the other person doesn't know that she is being looked at. We also call that voyeurism, peeping Tom syndrome, that we look through the keyhole. That means it gives me immense power that I am controlling, or I am seeing another woman or another person beyond that door, but that person has no clue that they are being looked at. So objectification is when you see real human being as objects, in this case women. Sometimes, the second point, women also internalize the gaze. This is also something that Laura Mulvey says, that not only that men look at women like an object, women also, because of their socialization and etc., and it's because it's a patriarchal society, women also internalize the fact that they should be looked at. Because we always, when our children grow up, we socialize them into believing that they are beautiful, they should be looked at. Men sometimes may harmlessly comment on their beauty and etc. And many women we have seen that have internalized the fact that they can be looked at as a sexual object. So when a woman knows that she is being treated as an object, this is another. The third point is, under gaze, is that objectification is a source of pleasure. That is, the man who is looking and turning a woman into an object, he is deriving pleasure by doing this. Fourth point is that men are the leading faction who have been the historical looker. This is important, that throughout the history it has been seen that men have been always in the center who looks at women, and women have been always in the receiving end. Men are the subject of gaze, women are the objects, which is why gaze itself is a very powerful structure. A person who has that gaze is powerful, can actually turn the person who is being looked at into an object. But because historically men have been in charge of that gaze, Laura Mulvey is calling this a male gaze. I'm just giving you a quotation from her so that you understand what she means. She says that in a world ordered by sexual imbalance, pleasure in looking has been split between active male or passive female. That is, male is active, female is passive. The determining male gaze projects its fantasy onto the female form, that is the female body or the figure, which is styled accordingly. That is, to cater to that objectification. In their traditional exhibitionist role, women are simultaneously looked at and displayed, with their appearance coded for strong visual and erotic impact that they can be said to connote to be looked atness. So the same thing, that the thing that we have discussed so far, that men look, women are looked at, and women also start believing that they are being looked at. This is one concept that I wanted you to have before we get into our case study, that is the idea of a male gaze. Another idea, another concept that I want you to think about before we get into our individual cases and the images that we'll discuss is the concept of beauty, body, and gender. In a text named Killing Us Softly, 2010, by John Kilgore, she says that advertisement not only sells the manufactured good, but also instill an idea that women's appearance and beauty is more important than her being and mind. So she said, because she was solely working with advertisements, she said that advertisement does not only intend to sell the goods, but it also tries to make you believe that woman's appearance is more than even her value, her worth, everything. Again, we have another text in 1990 by Naomi Wolf. The book is called The Beauty Myth. There also she says that the perception, opinion of attractiveness and desirability is rooted in patriarchal values and socio-familial constructions. So, in one hand, in 2010, we see Jacques Kilborn arguing that advertisements sell something more than the goods. Rather, it also sells the idea that how women should behave or how women should look like. In 1990, in Beauty Myth, Naomi Wolf says that the sole idea of attractiveness, desirability, everything is rooted in the patriarchal society. The society where this advertisement and everything will be telecasted. I have one small quotation here. I'll just read out from the introduction of The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf. The more legal and material hindrances women have broken through, the more strictly and heavily and cruelly images of female beauty have come to weigh upon us. So more women have tried to get rid of all the shackles, more we have seen that this idea of beauty and everything is, becoming a challenge for women. During the past decade, women breached the power structure. They did a lot of things. They tried to come and be at the center of the power. Meanwhile, eating disorders rose exponentially. So women are doing a lot of things, but at the same time, women are also falling prey to media schemes, media policies, beauty standards, and everything. So eating disorders is growing. Cosmetic surgery became the fastest growing specialty. So women are going out, they have control over their money, they are doing a lot of job, but at the same time, these problems are also growing exponentially. More women have more money, the power and scope, and legal recognition than we have ever had before. So she's talking in 1990s, women are having more money, they are getting into jobs, their employment is good, some of them are also getting high-paid job, they are being paid equally in some instances as well. But more, these problems are growing. The idea of beauty, correcting oneself, doing things sometimes even by involving invasive methods. So more women have more money, power and scope, legal recognition than we have ever had before. But in terms of how we feel about ourselves personally, physically, we may actually be worse off than our grandmothers. So according to her, that we have money, true, but this new beauty standards and the way we are spending that money, because we are now empowered with money, we are spending that money and correcting ourselves. Sometimes it makes us feel that we are perhaps having the worse life than even our grandmothers. Let us now talk about two instances with a lot of examples here and try to see how images of women in advertisements, what are the different ways that these images present itself. However, you have to understand that the present day scenario has completely changed. Most of my references are from 50s, 60s American advertisements. But it is important for us, while beginning to understand images, it is important for us to see these and have an idea what the situation was. I'm not saying situations are same now. Of course, many progressive advertisements and everything has come up, but at the same time, we have to understand that unless we have a clear idea about history and the history of these images, we will not have an idea what our present scenario is working upon. Two things that I'll point it out here, that images of women in advertisements, we'll see many advertisements here, and we'll try to point out two factors. One is naturalized sexism and the other is stereotype. Naturalized sexism is where a kind of an overt sexism, that is overt discrimination happens, but it is presented as if it is natural. As if it is natural to treat women like that. As if it is natural to behave in a sexist way. You can see the image number 1 is about beauty product. Not exactly beauty product, it's about toiletries, about soap. Just read the tagline. It says, watch your skin thrive on cashmere bouquet soap. So you can see that this is a toiletry. This could very well target a man, woman, child, old, younger, anyone. But why we are calling it naturalized sexism? Because this is not sold as a toiletry, but this is sold to women as if beautifying and something that has beauty in its core is the sole idea, is something that should solely cater to women only. Men are not important here. The second image you can see is advertisement of cigarettes. Smoking and alcohol, these kind of advertisements are not generally broadcast in these days because of legal issues and everything. But there was a time when these products used to be marketed through advertisements. And as you can see here, in this particular image, that a man is smoking, but for no reason you can see a woman's body or a woman's face is there. Neither she is connected with this particular act of smoking, neither she is selling the product, neither she herself is the product. But just as an object, as a sexual object, she has been placed here. The next is, this is most important, I mean for me it is an interesting idea of naturalized sexism, is that it's an ad of Kenwood. It says the chef does everything but cook. That's what wives are for. We have to understand that even in the realm of cooking, there is a pure division of labor in terms of what a chef does, what a home cook does. A chef gets paid in salary, with provident fund, with pension, with all the benefits and everything. That is industrial. But at home, definitely he doesn't cook. At home, only women cook, which is why a Kenwood standing mixer is for the woman who's not the chef, but who cooks at home. The next set of two images that you can see, one is again a vacuum cleaner. What a vacuum cleaner does? It cleans the home. Could be anybody's job. But you see that vacuum cleaner is, this particular vacuum cleaner is being sold as a gift to a woman for Christmas. Could be anybody's gift. Again, the next image. A woman says, you mean a woman can open it? Again, overtly sexist. She's given a ketchup bottle, is being marketed as easy to open. Because women do not have strength, they cannot. Generally, they ask for men to help this. So this particular bottle is fascinating because even a woman can open it. The next image, a common form of image, a woman who is perhaps personal assistant to a man. And this is something that we will not understand in India. In the West, it is a very common stereotype. That is the idea of a blonde. And it is always considered that a woman with blonde hair, they're generally not intellectual. The preferred term is quote-unquote dumb blonde. This is an image that you will find that American media worked for a long time. One major star of this icon is Marilyn Monroe herself. This instance called dumb blonde, which is very much existent in the West. We in India will not find it much relevance. It is often said that a woman who's blonde should be represented in a very dumb way, as if she cannot think on her own, she's very vulnerable, etc., etc. Now, this image is, as you can see here, she is perhaps the personal assistant or something, and she is very naive, she doesn't understand anything, and perhaps this is an advertisement of a typewriter or something, and she can't even figure out that because it is the most easy one in the market. But if that is the case, she is portrayed as very arrogant, happy about not knowing anything. And the man is so frustrated with the woman, he says, is it always illegal to kill a woman? This is an advertisement in the 1950s America. Another advertisement, again, naturalized sexism. Now I clean and wax my floors standing up. Once again, same as, for example, the vacuum cleaner. This is an ad of a mop and wax for the floor. A household work, not specific to women's work, but because society believes that these are particularly women's work, the ad has woman as the center. And the woman smiles and she's very happy that she can now mop and wax while standing up. It's long enough, the product. I'm just showing you more and more advertisements, and my suggestion would be one can always look for more advertisements to have an idea how image used to function, how image used to, create meaning. Now, these are interesting because these are print ads, and these are only one image with text and photographs kind of changes everything. Like this, a vitamin advertisement where a woman is definitely dusting and wearing a cloth to dust, and she's doing her household chores, and the man is admiring her, saying, so the harder a wife works, the cuter she looks. Another naturalized sexism where woman is understood in her heteronormative, conventional roles that she plays. And the man also finds her most attractive and most desirable when she's doing only those works and doing it with all good intentions and hard work. Two more examples. Again, I will repeat myself. Just have a look. These are the advertisements of cotton sheets for bed. Again, bed, all the members for the family require it. But while selling and targeting, we generally do it for women. With that, I kind of end the idea of naturalized sexism. The next set of examples I will give you is about stereotypes. This will include publicity materials. This will also include some standard images so that you have an idea about how advertisements, print advertisements and including audiovisual as well, how through images certain stereotypes are also imposed upon. First, for example, is body shape. As you can see, women's beauty standard differ from country to country, society to society, and etc. But what seems to bother women, and young women most importantly, is the idea of body shape. One has to fall under a particular category. As you can see, banana, apple, pear, hourglass, these are certain body shape ideas or stereotypes that are not only imposed by society but also through media, through the kind of stars one sees on screen, their favorite female stars, their favorite heroes, and also fashion industry through advertisements and other programs. Body shape, one stereotype. So you don't fit into these, you have, you find yourself awkward. You don't, gel in this society. Another idea, and this is funny, is the woman in love itself. The very notion of love is very much coded with societal values and whatnot. Because you will find that in mainstream cinema, advertisement, television programs, etc., whenever you see a couple, of course, I'm talking about heterosexual couple here. When they are in love, the man is always given the position where he takes charge, he proposes, he opens the door, etc., etc. And a woman is always submissive, passive, awestruck. And whenever there is a relationship that we see in a narrative or in advertisements or anywhere, we get to see that women are portrayed as very submissive when we see a couple in love. The next stereotype, again, is the damsel in distress. From our childhood narratives like fairy tales and etc. to cinema, advertisements, everywhere, damsel in distress, knight in shining armor, is a very standard couple formation. A woman is in distress, the man comes in with all his power to save her, his power to fight, etc., where the woman will never be shown to do that on her own or to save herself. Next is a domesticated woman. You can see here 3 images. A woman is washing, a woman is cleaning, and the woman is baking. And in the baking image, you can see that a small girl is also looking at it. Now, you will find instances of naturalized sexism where vacuum cleaners, mops, etc. are targeted towards women only. Now, women are most of the time are shown very differently, in the sense the kind of work they do, the domestic chores and everything, they, in advertisements and also in mainstream media, when we see these women, you will find that they're smiling, they're very happy doing it. Now, this is important. This acting or behaving is to make sure that whoever watches it sees and realizes, and advertisements and mainstream media always tend to create a binary, a good woman and a bad woman. To make a good woman, they create images like this, who are very happy, self-satisfying, doing household work. And more importantly, these are the women who also teach the younger girls, of course the girl children of the family, and encourages them to be more like them. Another advertisement, mainstream favorite, is the idea of a mother, ideal mother, sacrificing mother. In cinema, these sacrificial mothers are endless. There are so many characters. In advertisements also, for example, advertisement for mosquito repellents, advertisement for toothpaste, advertisement for food, oil, anything. A mother presents itself, ideal mother, where you see that she becomes the backbone of the children, of the family and everything. So ideal mother is cinema's favorite, ideal mother is mainstream media favorite, ideal mother is also a favorite of advertisements. One last example that I want to give, of course the image that you see is not from advertisement, it is from cinema, but one of the iconic woman character who used to play VAMP in Indian cinema. So VAMP is again another category. Woman, either a saint or a vamp. For a long time in mainstream media, in Indian media of course, even worldwide, there were these polarized way of representing women. Either they are too good, saint-like, good mother, good wife, good sister, good daughter, etc. And the other is vamp. If you look at this image, this is interesting why I particularly chose this image. If you have ever seen cinema, you already know that this is a bad character. Why? Because there are so many things, so many codes that have been used that is generally identified with quote-unquote badness. She wears makeup. She wears titillating dresses. So all these things, and the way she is sitting and inviting, she looks very sexualized. And most importantly, this is not the sexualization where in the beginning we said about male gaze. This is not that kind of a sexualization where the man looks and make her an object. In this image, we realize that the woman is in control of her sexuality. Now that kind of an image has to be tagged as a vamp or a negative role or a negative character. As we say, saint and vamp. This is more or less the idea of stereotype and naturalized sexism. So what we did today was try to understand what gaze is. We also tried to understand what are the feminist concerns around body and beauty. And then through these many images, we tried to see how in mainstream media, most importantly advertisements as a case, and of course we took help from 1950s, 60s American advertisements, when and how image of a woman were used as a commercial image to create a sense of a femininity, which was very stereotypical in nature, which still continues to be stereotypical in nature in many of the advertisements, and also upholds certain naturalized sexist codifications. Thank you.